In this video, we'll give you the top 4 players most likely to rebound from bad seasons in 2024 redraft leagues. I'm Jim Coventry along with Anthony Servino of RotoWire.
Jim, my first player most likely to rebound from a bad season, Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes. And right now, Patrick Mahomes is going as the QB3 off the board in a lot of fantasy drafts. But I have Patrick Mahomes ranked as my quarterback 1. We know Patrick Mahomes, he has it in him. If we go back through his career history, even as early as 2022, he was a QB2 in fantasy points per game. 2020, QB2 in fantasy points per game. 2018, QB1 in fantasy points per game. We know what we're getting out of Patrick Mahomes. And now this year, the Kansas City Chiefs, they reloaded his pass-catching core. Not only do we have Travis Kelce coming back healthy, which is an important thing to note, but we also have Rashee Rice. And at this point, I'm not even sure if Rashee Rice is going to even serve a suspension this year. We also have Xavier Worthy, one of the fastest rookie wideouts ever at the combine, now as a weapon for Mahomes, and of course Hollywood Brown. We know Hollywood Brown has had an up and down career so far, but he will by far be playing with his best quarterback and best offensive system in mind with Andy Reid. Mahomes right now, third quarterback off the board, is a big-time value when people are drafting Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts ahead of him. Both of those quarterbacks have knocks. Let's take Josh Allen. We don't know what that wide receiver room's going to look like. Jalen Hurts, I have a lot of optimism in that offense, but we don't know how the Kellen Moore system's going to play out. He has a new OC. With Patrick Mahomes, we know what we're going to get. And oh, by the way, they upgraded his weapons, which makes him that much more dangerous. Jim?
My first player most likely to rebound from a disappointing season, Jonathan Taylor of the Indianapolis Colts. Now, let's look back to last year. Taylor missed time. He was on the PUP list with that ankle thing. We don't know how much was contract, how much was ankle, how much he was working on it. But remember, the time missed in 2022 was due to the same ankle injury. So Taylor may have 2 years of missed time, but again, it was one injury. So the injury history may be overreported. Now, Jonathan Taylor last year, he rushed for a career low in yards per carry. But that said, Taylor had strong broken tackle rate, 71st percentile. Yards after contact, 84th percentile. It was snaps and volume and getting into a groove that were the problems for Taylor. So last year, even when Taylor came back after that PUP list visit, Taylor only played 40 snaps 5 times, and he didn't see more than 50 snaps in one single game last year. So he was not a workhorse back in any capacity. Zach Moss, who was getting work, no longer with the team. Trey Sermon, not a threat. We're going to see Taylor with a heavy workload. Also, understand this. Jonathan Taylor has not played a snap with Anthony Richardson. And Jonathan Taylor is going to benefit from the mobile RPO quarterback that is going to keep linebackers on their heels. Jonathan Taylor back to the elite level in 2024. Now, if you enjoy videos like this, please consider hitting the like button and subscribe to the RotoWire Fantasy Football channel on YouTube. Also, check out all of our fantasy football content and rankings by getting a free 2-day trial with no credit card needed. Just go to rotowire.com/Jim to see all of our content.
Jim, my next player that's going to bounce back from a bad season, Chris Godwin, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, last year, Mike Evans shined. He was the wide receiver to have on that Tampa Bay Buccaneers roster. But Chris Godwin still held his own. He finishes a wide receiver 28 in overall PPR points at the wide receiver position and wide receiver 34 in fantasy points per game. But we have to remember who Chris Godwin is. From 2020 to 2022, he never finished worse than the wide receiver 15 in fantasy points per game. Now, he is ranked last year 23rd amongst wide receivers in target share, even with Evans getting targeted at a higher rate. And right now, Chris Godwin is being drafted as a 68th player off the board. The simple case for Chris Godwin, he's 28 years old, coming off one of his worst fantasy outputs of his career. He's in line for a bounce back, and at his value right now, he is one of the best wide receivers to get due to a high floor.
My last player most likely to rebound from a poor 2023 season, Jaylen Waddle of the Miami Dolphins. Now, Waddle has learned in the last 2 years it's very hard to earn extreme target volume when you're playing with Tyreek Hill. When Waddle was a rookie and Hill wasn't there, Waddle had 141 targets. The last 2 years, he's averaging 111. Now, I want to point out that Jaylen Waddle was dominant in 2022. Mike McDaniel put together that great offense. It was lethal. And we saw Jaylen Waddle with a 1,356-yard season. But last year, not the same story. First of all, Waddle missed 3 games. The other thing is, if you watch those games when he played, you frequently saw Jaylen Waddle limping around the sidelines, limping around the field. He was clearly injured and not at full capacity last year. So in those 14 games, Waddle posts just 1,014 yards and 4 touchdowns. But given the state he was in, that was still an accomplishment. And Waddle only hit 80 yards 4 times. That said, Waddle is a very dynamic playmaker. Defenses will never be able to make him the focal point with Tyreek Hill on the field. The targets may not be through the roof, but a healthy Waddle, we should get back to that 1,300-yard type season. And unlike last year, when you had to really pay up for Waddle, he's coming at a bit of a discount in fantasy football drafts.